All right, we are live. And today is a very, 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 very special day because we have a very, very unique top transformational freaking coach on this, like who literally brings fire to the online space of making money online. She's been in the industry for over 20 freaking years. I'm so honored to have her on and be able to interview her today and have her biggest tips and her tricks and share all the knowledge that she's had through the years of literally developing huge businesses. And not only that, but taking people who are just like you and I who have problems in our business and turning them into solutions. So it's so awesome. She's going to introduce herself, but before we do, when I first got connected with Joan, she has these very inspiring cards that each morning she just kind of shuffles through them. And if you don't, yes, right here, ignite light. If you don't have time to be, the personal development thing, or, you wake up and you kind of have, a little bit of an off day, you can literally just shuffle them, close your eyes and read one. And that's what I want to start with today. So the first one, the one that I brought up is sometimes the best thing to do is pause, check in with yourself. Sometimes I can easily explain the way I'm feeling. Other times I need to halt and ask myself, am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? Flip the switch from running on empty and pause to check in with yourself. Take care of you so that you can take care of others. Get to the bottom of what's making you feel the way you feel. Wow.
Right?
And I love how like intentional they are. Like when I read them, I feel like it's the one that I need specifically for that day to get me moving the needle forward, in every
Wow,
area of my life.
totally
So
that.
those are very inspiring. So Joan, please like give a cap, like share with everyone who you are, what you're all about, and just give them the energy that you bring and
Yeah.
manifest into this world.
Well, first, I have to say thank you, Michelle. It's an honor to be here on your show, and I have to say that you and your example has been such an incredible, uh, uplifting, just I don't even know how to describe it because so many members of my team and people that follow me on my leader community are still talking about the amazing training that you did. And so I'm so grateful to be here. And I love that we work in an industry where people like you and I and so many others are so willing to give of their time. So thank you for having me here. Gosh, a little bit about myself. Well, I started back in 2001, and I joke around and say that I was one of these people that was a two-page turner mom. I had a great career at Nordstrom. I loved what I did, but by the time I would get home to my son, and read a story, I would try and cheat and skip pages because I was so exhausted. And I found myself literally grabbing a journal from my backpack. I used to commute on the Washington State Ferry, going from Seattle back to my home. And I didn't know anything about really manifesting. I mean, I might have known about intentions and goals because I did those, of course, with numbers at Nordstrom and management. But I just was at this place where I thought there's got to be something more for me. And I'm sure many people right now that are listening are probably thinking and feeling much the same way. Like there's got to be something more. I'm not quite where I want to be, or something's just, not flowing the way that I really want to feel all the time. And I thought, I'm just going to make a list of what I want my life to look like. And I didn't overthink it. I wasn't thinking like the way we train people now or anything, but I thought, just going to write out what I want my life to look like. And what ended up on the pages of that journal was what happened in my life. And it started in less than 2 weeks. So I wrote things like I wanted to have the freedom, to write my own schedule. And I know that might sound canned to many of you, but I just wanted freedom, period. I felt that for 12 plus hours of the day, I was owned by a company that I loved, but it was like, it just was like, I felt so boxed in. And the other few things that I wrote was, I wanted my son to be a car kid. I didn't want to walk him to the bus or have him go to daycare. I just didn't want that anymore. I really just forced myself to really imagine that life. And I pictured being in this beautiful home with my kitchen and, me giving him snack. I pictured me having a business of my own and helping people. And I even wrote some of the very things that I did at Nordstrom that I love to do. And wouldn't you know it, 2 weeks later, my very best friend said, Joni, I have no idea what you're doing, but you might want to take a look at this because I think you'd be really good. And I share this a lot of times in my story, Michelle, because I know there's people right now that are afraid to offer people, the opportunity to look at their business. And I want to just tell you that if it hadn't been for that, and really what it was an answer to prayer or intention, however you want to look at it. But if my best friend hadn't have stepped out and just said, "Hey, you might want to take a look at it. I don't know what you're going to think, but just look," I wouldn't be here today. And I do get really choked up because that's the very beginning of my story. But 23 years later, where that one invitation made such a difference in my life, I've been able to build 4 multi-million-dollar businesses, work with amazing companies. Um, but the amount of people that I've been able to help and that have helped me, it's off the charts. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start. But I will tell you that this industry and what we have the ability to do by representing amazing companies, incredible products, and just sheerly supporting and helping others. I mean, to me, that's what life's all about.
Yes, you have me choked up over here. I'm like, oh my gosh, when you speak, it's just so inspiring.
Oh,
Because I mean it, because it's so crazy how different people's stories are. I
right.
said no when someone reached out to me to being a part of this, industry. I said a hard no for 5 years. I had
Yeah,
to be honest. I made fun of people who were online trying to make money and help other people make money. And, after I became in a different area of my life where I literally had to have money coming in because I was a single mom and I couldn't work any more jobs because I had so many other jobs going on.
right,
I said yes to this, and I didn't even have the ability to dream like you did, to write down what I wanted my life to look like, because I just didn't think that I could have something like that because I felt so broken. So, finding mentors and leaders like you and being asked the question, anyone even listening, what would your life look like right now if you had all the time, you had everything you wanted in this world, there was no worries about a job, there was no, what would your
right,
life look like? I
right.
paused and I started writing that down on a piece of paper, and I wrote it down, and I'll never forget, even my vision board now for where I want to be is on the back of my phone. All I did every single day was manifest inside of that. And
Yeah,
just like 2 weeks later, your friend reached out to you. Things like that happen with me. That's how I kind of met you. All of a sudden,
yeah,
I'm like, my gosh, I'm speaking on a podcast. I'm doing, but that's what happens when you
that,
actually manifest and dream.
yeah.
And
And I want to point out something you said because you said, you know, that you weren't even thinking about that you, how do I say this? You mentioned that you weren't even at that place of allowing yourself to dream big or to think of anything. And I have to tell everybody here that, you know, I don't know what came over me that day on the ferry because mostly, I, like you, was a single mom. I was in an unhealthy relationship with my boyfriend at the time. And much of my brain power was going to what wasn't working in my life, to all of the problems that I had. And that is what really has given me such a passion, because if somebody knew me before, maybe on the outside, I probably looked fine, like, she has a pretty good life or whatever. But on the inside, people that knew me knew I was really crumbling. And when I started this business, I didn't have any, preconceived notion, or I should say this, I had a similar thought, like, yeah, fat chance. I remember writing my list, and it was in a journal, kind of like this. I still journal today. But when I made my list, I remember reading it, and I tell this, I mean, it's kind of funny, but at the bottom, I thought, you know what? Working from home, making a six-figure income. I remember I wrote all these things down, right? And I went just like this. Fat chance that's going to happen where I live. Like, literally, I didn't believe it. All I did was ask. And that's what I want people to hear. I had enough, I don't know, enough to go, I at least want that. And that's where the journey started.
And Joan, I can't stress that enough to so many people that I talk to, that in every area of their life, whether it's wealth or whether it's fitness and health, I can't do that. I'm not motivated. The belief part of it, that belief and actually looking into that. So when you threw it down and you said, I can't have that, how did you continue to manifest in that to
Yeah.
make that become true, to stick around for 20 freaking years through extremely good times, extremely bad times, hard times, busy times, and ugly times?
Yeah.
That's so admirable.
Well, I like that you asked me that question, because sometimes I ask myself that. Like, I can't believe that somebody who, as an employee, I had goals, and, but they were really set for me through Nordstrom. Like, I knew, like, this is what we were going to do next, and here's how we were going to get to the next thing. But as an entrepreneur, this was fairly new to me. I mean, I did have some background with my family owning businesses. And so I've always been somebody that had the desire to, create something, but I really didn't know what. So the question you asked me was, how did I really stick with this, and how did I see through year after year? Because definitely I've had companies shut down on me. I've left companies for some reason or another. I've started brand new. I've started over. I've been out for, working in the corporate part of our industry for 3-4 years. Then I went back and started all completely over with no one. I mean, so I have done a lot of different things. And I will say this, most people probably look at my life and go, oh, yeah, well, easy for her. No, it's not easy for me. It's been a constant journey of growth. And that's what I would say. The first part, when I said yes. So for all of you out there that are maybe just considering, or maybe you've just said yes, or maybe you're at that place where your business is in the tank, right? You just are like, I don't know what to do. This isn't working. I'm going to tell you one of the things I did that made the biggest difference. And I train this to every person that I work with. For 90 days, Michelle, I followed the company's success plan. And I did that because I didn't want to fail. And I knew myself well enough to know that I had let me say this. I had joined a company before, like for a split second, where I invested the money, and then I went, you know what, this is going to be too much work. I already have a full-time job. I'm not doing it. So I did like one event with that company. And then when I said yes to this second thing, I thought, there's no freaking way that I am going to do what I did before, because I saw a couple people that were in that company that joined when I did, and I knew they were making six figures now. So I kind of had a little bit of that FOMO. But here's what I did. I thought, okay, companies have success plans or fast start plans for a reason. It's to set that person up for success. So I'm not going to try and reinvent the wheel. I'm going to follow the plan. And I'm going to do every single thing. Even if it scares me, I'm going to work through the fear to get on the other side and do what they're telling me. And I will tell you, I made no excuses. Now, did I have fear? Yeah. Like picking up the phone and doing reach outs in those days was how you did it. You had to be a lot more front facing because we didn't have the internet. I mean, I stood in fear, and I write about that in my book for, a good half a week, 48 hours, 72 hours, where I stared at the phone on the wall. And I thought, forget it. This is stupid. Why am I doing this? It's just fear of what people were going to think. But then I found a way. And it was like, well, what people ask me all the time, well, how'd you get out of the fear? Well, I thought of one person that would have to say yes to me, because I knew just with one yes, I would have the confidence to get another yes and to hear another 10 no's. But if I could get one yes, I had some business. And that is how it started. And one day at a time, I checked the checklist, and we have those same tools today. So if you're out there and you're stuck or you're not succeeding, let me ask you, how are you using your company's success plan? How are you using a checklist of those daily DMOs? Because if you truly follow that, you will succeed. There's no way that you can't, because that's what you do, Michelle. And that's what I do still to this day. It's called the basics. When we can be masterful at the basics, you can do anything.
I agree, but something that I struggled with in the beginning that I made into my superpower was to actually check the box. Because here in
Woo.
life, you're like, oh, I did everything I was supposed to do today. Okay, what did you do? Like you think that you remember everything because you think that
Yeah.
you're just right on top of it. Just like I can't even leave the gym. And think about the times you leave a grocery store or you walk out of the mall or the gym and you can't even remember where you parked your car, let
Yeah.
alone 4 or 5 tasks a day to actually build a substantial business. You've got to check the box. And that's one thing that I've never stopped doing
Yep.
since I was in a rut. And since I wanted to have that momentum, is go to the daily methods of operations. And in every single plan out there, every company, everything on that is personal development. So if you're not
Yep.
pouring into yourself day in and day out, I love how you mentioned the personal development. The one thing that I love about this business and the one reason why no matter what I will never stop is that it's a personal development journey with a freaking income attached to it.
It
I have
is.
never grown in so much. I mean, in the past 5 years of being in the industry, I'm a completely different human being than the person who I was 5 years ago. And it's for
Right.
one reason: books of people like you, pouring into myself from people who have already doing it, borrowing your belief, pouring in
Mhm.
and actually checking the box and not just saying, well, I did it this week, but really you did it 2 days out of 7 days. So I
Yeah.
really respect and admire you for saying that. 20 years still in, I bet your butt you're still literally checking a box and following the systems that actually work, because you, out of all people, Joan, have to pivot. 20 years
Yeah.
ago, things were way different. You had
Oh
to
boy.
probably walk up to people face to face. You know what I mean? Now you can do it behind a screen. You have help with, I mean, you have so many tools and resources and other people out there that you can look up to. So it makes you that much more admirable.
Oh, well, gosh, I thank you. I mean, I appreciate it. I will tell you though, when I look back at where I've come and where people, I have people on my team today that started with me 23 years ago. And that brings tears to my eyes because I get to watch them literally uh, transform before my eyes. And it's from what I like to say, it's from, kind of like glory to glory, right? It's from like evolvement to evolvement. And I couldn't agree more with you. This business, what to me, when I started in this business, I can come out and just say it, right?
Yeah.
All right. We're just going to let it hang out. I was a young single mom. I was in my young 30s, and I was struggling to find, just that joy and peace and happiness. And I was in a relationship that was really, you know, looking back, it was pretty toxic. And part of the toxic was me. I had a drinking problem that I was not addressing. I don't even know that I knew I had a drinking problem, but things would happen to me when I drank that diminished my self-esteem, and that I didn't mean to do, and I always felt so sorry. And that was one of the first things that I like to say that God really cleaned up in my life. you know Within 90 days of being in network marketing, I found myself getting a DWI, landing, or I should say, choosing landing in jail, but then choosing to go to treatment. And, you know, that isn't something that a young single mom would really be proud of. But, I had great support through my family. And I didn't really want to quit drinking. I needed to quit drinking because I wanted the life. I wanted to live a life I love more than the life I was living. But I didn't know how I was going to do it. And all while I had this brand new business, but I started to see that I was spending, I had all this big, huge amount of time, because I wasn't drinking. And what I feel like is, it was just one thing that needed to be cleaned up in my life in order to allow me to be on that path of being a leader that people would choose to follow. Um, and now, today I don't drink today, and my life is great. And I mean, going from wondering how I was going to stop drinking to not drinking, that's a miracle in and of itself. But the growth that we experience in this industry, I mean, it's phenomenal if you lean into it. And for me, I think a lot of people can overthink everything, and you think I just was, in fact, Michelle, this just happened to me in the last couple years. You think you need everything to be perfect to have success. And I've hired coaches. Right now, I have 3 that I work with, and I've always had coaches. I've always had mentors. I've always been just hungry for programs and learning. But here's what I'll say. I had someone not too long ago look at my own brand, right? And he goes, God, you have the brand of you got $1 million brand and blah, blah, blah. But there's a couple things missing. And I was like, yeah, I know. He goes, Joan, what's the number one thing that you need to focus on? Or what's the top 2 things? And I want to say this because it's the same thing, guys, in your businesses. What moves the needle is sales and recruiting. That's what moves the needle. So on your checklist, if it says create graphics and, I mean, I don't even know what it could be, but if it doesn't move the needle for selling your product and sharing your business, quit freaking doing it because you're wasting your time. And I had to be brought back to that 23 years later because I was doing all these things behind the scenes that don't even really matter. They're called extracurricular activities. Now, is it nice to have a great graphic and a good logo? Of course, but they don't sell your products. You and me, Michelle, and all of you listening, we sell our products and people are buying us. And that's one of the things, Michelle, I have to say I admire when I look at your stuff. You're so focused because you know this. You know that there's a couple hero products in the company that you're with in the line that you chew up, you eat up, and you really help the people that are responding to what you're putting out there. And that's how you're where you are. And if I unpack my whole businesses, because it's been different companies with different ways of doing businesses. It's not the same, and none of it's the same. And that's one of the things I love. I love change. But let me say this. If it wasn't for understanding that, what am I really here for? Yes, I'm here to help people. Yes, certain things that look good from the outside are important, but they're not the most important. And when we figure that the majority of people have 1 to maybe 2 hours a day to work on their business, the checklist, and I agree with you. I am a checklist person. I do a lot of things on paper. And that's just me. I'm not judging anybody, but that's how I know it's done.
I love that. So many people just look at you and, oh gosh, Joan is so inspiring and she's just so awesome, and don't realize that you're a human out there that is actually starting new conversations with people every single day. I think it's one of the craziest things, I think, is that one of my biggest objections was that I knew my friends and family were going to be a hard no. And even
Right.
being in a previous company to where I am now, I mean, in February, starting 300 new customers and 10 new recruits, not one of those people I've ever known in my entire life of living. So
Yeah.
it goes to show you there's billions of people in this world. I love that I've met people like you who I can resonate with and be like-minded with more than I did like in high school. We just have like this limiting belief that's holding us back, that doesn't make us want to believe that being on social media is a platform to be social without
Right. Right.
without having to be a spammy whammy butthole. I love saying
Yeah.
that, so I had
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but Joan, tell people like what are the things each and every day that you are doing? What are your non-negotiables that you do every day to show up to move the needle forward when it comes to growing a business? I don't care if it's now or 20 years ago. Like, what have you done to build such an empire?
Mhm. Well, I'm gonna say it like this. I mean, the first thing that I've done is I've collected a lot of friends. And I think that's where really it starts. On social media, whatever your company is, whatever you know, whatever you're representing, I don't think it's all that different company to company, or even if you're in network marketing or if you're just selling a digital product. I think that people often have the misconception that, they're focused on, and here I just said this, they're focused on the end result of the sale. But to get the sale, we have to start with connection. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. So the first question that I look at, and how I work with people and myself, is, do people know me? Do they know me? And there's a whole great big wide world out there. We're never going to, be in front. There's never a loss for leads. So let's just make sure that if you're on social media, that if you ever tell your upline or you ever tell yourself, well, I've exhausted my lead list, you're just thinking that's a limiting belief, because the lead list is the world, and your job is to get out there so people know you. So I kind of have a way of looking at this. Maybe, I don't know if it's different, but to me, it's like this. When you make a post, that's me talking to people. When people comment, like, heart, love, or give me the thumbs up, that's them talking back to me. Now I have something to talk about because they responded to what I was talking about. So now it's my job to do the follow up. That's the third step of it. So, it doesn't matter if I'm going to be talking about a product, like a physical product that I take, or if I'm going to be talking about the business. I'm the initiator of the conversation. It's just like I'm calling you, Michelle. Hey, Michelle, it's Joan. And you go, hey, Joan, what's up? I don't go silent. I say, oh, I was giving you a call because I wanted to see what you and your guy were doing tonight for dinner. That's my offer, you know. Then you respond, and now we're in a conversation. But how did we get in the conversation? Because we have a connection, right? We started with, you were interested in something that I was talking about, and we began that because we had a connection. So
So
I don't
every day that's very clear that you are posting content through
posting
stories
content.
and through posts, and you are
Yep.
starting conversations with those people. I always like to tell people, Joan, which is a way that I learned, because I used to kind of feel weird about it. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I would tell myself that they just walked into my Lululemon, and I
Yeah.
either look them in the eye and I say, "Hi, how are you?" or I look at them and I
Mhm.
turn my face and I walk away. I don't want to ever be that person.
That's so
So
good.
I'm always, "Hey, how are you? Oh my gosh, do you like coffee? Like, what kind do you like?" And just starting a conversation. And you would be, and guess what? You're never going to get good at it, guys, because I used to look at my husband and go, "Jeff, I can talk to anyone face to face, but you put me behind a screen. I don't know what to say. I can't see I can't see what they're wearing. I can't get, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know."
Yeah.
He's like, "Just keep continuing to do it, Michelle, and you'll get good at it." And he was right.
Right.
Now I can have these conversations. I look back and I'm like, but you're never going to get good at it sitting there wondering how to do it. So just start
Right.
doing it. No one's going to think you're weird. You're not going to go to jail. Like, nothing bad's going to come from it. All
No.
good. And
Yeah.
honestly, you're going to find out more about yourself, and you're going to learn from each person. So that's something that I really love. And that's something that I had to suck up in the beginning, is to have content and to realize that there has to be a follow up from me.
Right. And the other thing is that I think people don't realize is, I mean, I shouldn't say people. I should just say me. I think that sometimes we get this idea that we've got to be everywhere. You've got to be on Facebook, you've got to be on Instagram, you got to be on TikTok, you got to be on YouTube, you got to. And if you have the capacity to handle it, then you ought to be, right? I agree with that 100%. But what I think majority of people that are getting started or that are even mid-level leaders, hey, master one platform first. I was looking at myself, even just Facebook, right? Literally, I have 5 different places that I can post, right? We've got our feed, right? Our wall, right? Where that comes up in our feed. We've got stories. We can do reels, we can do lives, and I have a group. That's 5 different audiences. Now, what I think people often think, and Michelle, you tell me what you think, but I think they think I got to post 5 different things in all those different areas. Well, part of my post becomes part of my story, becomes part of my reel if I'm doing a live or my in my group. It really, I might change a little or take away a little, but it's all one piece of content. And then we repurpose that stuff too. So anyway, I think there's a lot of misconception when I talk, especially with new people, that they've got to be everywhere. And I would say master one platform first, because there's more than enough leads in one platform, whatever your choice is. I mean, most people are going to choose Facebook or Instagram first, probably most, but it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, there's so many opportunities in front of you to follow up with all of those leads that I have a hard time keeping up, you know? What about you? What do you think of that?
Hey, I agree. I mean, when I go to events and I see top leaders, I'm in their face. I'm like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "Well, I have 3 tablets in front of me. I'm on Facebook here, Instagram here, and TikTok on the other one." I'm like, "Okay, why not kill?" And it's all, and I'm everywhere. I'm in every group. I'm in the reel. I repurpose it and I put it up everywhere, because I like to look at it as a commercial. Domino's Pizza cannot get me on their new pretzel pizza until I see it 9 or 10, 15 times. So
Yeah.
the thing is, we're showing up once, but then we pull back. And I want to also say that when I started back 5 years ago, never compare your chapter freaking 1 to someone's
Right.
chapter 20. Just like with Joan, I'm not going to compare my chapter 5 years to her chapter 20, because I started this business by adding value with positive quotes. I
Yeah.
started this business by sharing healthy recipes that helped me lose 30 pounds. I shared posts that helped me get my water in by setting a 90-minute timer. So I didn't come out of the gate going, "Here's my face and I'm putting sunless tanner on and I'm not stuttering over my words." That wasn't me.
Right.
I've
Right.
grown through what I've gone through in the
Yeah.
personal development, and I've just been here longer than you have. So
Yeah.
try not to ever have that comparitis when it comes to you launching your business, because it shouldn't look like my business and it shouldn't look like Joan's business. What it should look like is if you do have a positive quote or you're sharing a recipe, that should be on your stories, because there's conversation starters you can see there, because you can see exactly who was on your stories. It should
Right.
be created into a reel. It should be in some type of private group where you can have a community of people where you're just adding free value, whether you're checking in each day and doing 7,500 steps.
Yeah.
And everything should just can be on that platform. And I agree with you, because getting overwhelmed, nothing's going to
Yeah.
get nothing's going to get done. So you
And
might as
that's
well
what I
master.
find.
Yes. You might as
Yeah.
well master the one platform, like you said, and then you can, okay, I get reels, I get it now. And then Instagram's kind of similar. So then you're going to realize your growth rate is going to actually quadruple and be less time, because you're going to be able to just jump right in and learn faster because you mastered it. And it's kind of, similar, right?
Right. I agree. Yeah. And I think the most important thing again that we have to go back to is if you're posting content and you're overthinking it and all of a sudden now you've ate up your time,
Mm-hmm.
well, you've got to go back to look at your checklist. Because if I could work a full-time job for 1 year, 23 years ago, I worked no, it was a party plan the way I started in this industry, but I worked 2 nights. I did two little parties, 2 spa parties on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the nights that my son went with his dad. And I was on the phone in those days. We didn't have Facebook groups and stuff, but I was on the phone with people, during my breaks when I could, and all the different things, just kind of like what we do today. But here's what I'll say. I built a 6-figure business working probably 15 hours a week, if I really get down to it, for
Mm-hmm.
over a year. Did I spend, more time at some points? Probably. But for those people that are like, well, I'm working full time, I don't know if I'd ever be able to get there. Yeah, you can. You just have to become laser focused on what you're doing and make sure that the things that you're doing are the things that move the needle. I can't say that enough, because sometimes there'd be days where everything got out of control. My son had a meltdown. I don't know, traffic. And then I look and I'm like, okay, what can I do today? And it was still the same things that we do now. It's just a different way of doing it. It was like, okay, you know what? You've got to get another party on the books, or you've got to get another 2, because once I had those parties on the books, guys, I then had a built-in, how I would follow up, because then it would be a matter of getting the people to the parties. It's not much different. The skills, the companies, the skills are really the same. The companies and the products might be different, but if you can, in my opinion, just get very laser focused on what are those top activities, you're going to be successful. All the other stuff comes over time.
Yes, I can't explain that enough to people. Like, people come in and they're like, it's breaking down to be like $3 an hour. My first, if I only made 300 or 400 my first month, but I'm putting time, an hour a day into this. It's not get rich quick. It's get rich eventually. When I
Yeah.
found that I could come into this business and dedicate 3 hours a week to make an additional $250 a week, that additional $1,000 a month was so meaningful to my family. And when
Yeah.
you're consistent and you keep showing up month after month and doubling that, well, obviously you're going to see it eventually pays off. And
It does.
again, I'm so glad that I didn't look at someone like John Melton and go, it took him 7 years to crack a 6-figure income. Do you think he was just showing up 30 minutes a day every day?
Right.
No. I mean, he was probably showing up a couple hours a day every day, but he didn't quit. And he wasn't saying, oh, well, my breakdown is probably about 8 cents an hour. That's what I'm making. He saw the big picture. And that's what I saw. I
Yeah.
saw the freedom, be home with my daughter. I don't want her to be a bus mom. I want to be a car boy, just like, car daughter, just like you. I want to have, that's what I saw. So I just kept going, because there's not just one person in this industry who does it. There's a
No.
ton of people. And when you watch the people who walk across the stage, there's nothing special about them. They
No.
come in every different shape, every different size, every different ethnicity, every different age. So anyone can do it. The difference between you and that person is the big picture that's seen. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Well, I do. I agree with you 100%. And I also think, like, if somebody was going to say to me, well, why did you succeed in 4 businesses? Because I think that is something to be said. Like, how can you do it over and over and over? Because I know that there is a strategy, there is a way to do this. It starts with me having a strong personal business. When my personal business is really strong, I'm bringing in sales and leads and recruits and all that. And then I begin learning how to work with my people. And that's kind of part of developing leaders, which, I really have been able to support a lot of people learning or developing a 6-figure income over the years. And that is part of helping them duplicate the systems and seeing the vision, and but the vision for themselves,
yes,
you know so
because it all starts with belief, man. That
it
really
really
starts
does.
with belief. So,
It
so
really
Joan,
does.
this is just fire. It's 41. We're on 41. I know your time is like extremely valuable. You're just an absolute rock star. I want you to give, if you have one piece of advice for anyone who's watching this right now, I think this is built. Smash that heart button, guys. Drop in the comments if you're coming in live, hashtag live. And if you're catching this on the replay, hashtag replay. Make sure you're tagging your teams, your upline, your downline line, whatever, friends, family. Like, Joan is a true legend when it comes to success in the industry because of her consistency, because of the value that she adds out there, just taking her time to tell people she's a human. She has ups, she has downs, she's talking to people, she's in the trenches. Like, there's certain times when she started business, she was really in the trenches. So it's really, really valuable for you to give such precious time and pour it into so many people. I can't thank you enough. But do you have anything else out there that you want to add value wise to these people to just take the freaking business and grab it by the horns and close out 2023 with a bang?
Yeah. So I would say that the best advice that I could give to anybody listening is, whether you're brand new or whether you're in a slump and you need to restart your business, set the intention for a 90-day run, that you're going to go back and either make sure you're doing all the things that you need to do to build your business, or that you're going to start that way. Um, I mean, there's so many things that people can do that are going to add to their success, but this truly is probably the simplest thing that I could say has changed my life and the people that I work with. Because when I onboard people, that is one of the questions I ask. Are you willing to commit for 90 days to building your business, really doing what it takes to build the business? And those folks are people that tend to stay, they have success. And I would just say that there's no other tip that I could give that would be as valuable as that. And it's simple because it's already there for you.
I love that. All right, you got me all fired up. Joan, thank you
Whoop,
so
whoop.
much again.
Yeah.
You guys have a good day. Happy freaking Tuesday. Get out there and freaking crush it.
Crush
Bye,
it.
Joan.